Oh, you're giving, you mean there's like all kinds of fear around the resistance and it's just not as bad as you think it is? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and just it's like, not only the instrument of Maya, but like the instruments that keep us in the material world, in the
Yeah.
body. So it's just like, I don't know, the mechanism. Like the thing that keeps us here. So
Yeah.
I don't need to pay attention to this feeling.
Yeah. You're saying you're giving importance to something that's just harmful. We're giving too much energy to something.
Yes.
It's not.
And if I don't go there, so I don't learn a lesson, so I keep in my past patterns, so it keeps me from moving forward.
Yeah.
So it's just like that instrument that keeps me in my old shoes.
Yeah. Which is pretty common for most people, right? If you want to do something you've never done before, or become something you've never become before, something has to change, right? So if you're still thinking the same way, but you're trying to do something different, it doesn't work. And so some people, like we try to do something, but we never change the way we think or who we are. So even though we're trying to do it, thinking and it's the same and it doesn't happen. They have this. You have this experience. Like a lot of people are trying to become rich, and they go to the same course, but it doesn't work the same for everybody. Because some people, deep down, think I don't deserve to be rich, or I could never be rich, or so we can say I don't deserve to be Krishna conscious. It's the same thing. It's a pattern, a thinking pattern. So we all have certain thinking patterns, and so what's intelligent is to look at what are those patterns, which of those patterns help, and which of those patterns don't. And of the patterns that don't, we have to think, well, what patterns would help? Which is usually 180% opposite of the ones that don't help. Most of the time it's pretty easy to figure out. So a lot of these things, as you said, are not as difficult to change as we think. And I think self-love and self-care empowers us to want to change, because we know if we don't, we're causing our own suffering. And so, okay, I'm going to do it. Then you face it, or you dissolve it. One teacher said something interesting. He said, you don't always have to give up something, you just have to leave it alone. Doesn't it sound easier to leave it alone than to give it up? Just put it outside, don't bother it. You don't have to throw it away. So I have this attachment. Okay, you have this attachment, just like, whatever. Don't worry about it, just leave it alone. It's not a problem. In some way, you will figure out how to do what you have to do, become what you have to become, if you care enough. I mean, just look at your life. You could easily be the same 50 years from now. Right? And so your life will be more or less the same, which is great if that's the way you like it. But if it's not, that's not a good idea. If there's anything you don't like, why not change it? Do yourself a favor. Change it. Right? But I've never done this before. Okay. Today's the first day of the rest of your life, so do it today. Have you ever, thought I should do something, but I'm too old, and 10 years later you thought, I wish I would have done it 10 years ago, because I'd be pretty good at it by now? Yeah. So if you're going to live your life that way, you'll always be regretting, right? So, it's so simple. You need a certain way of thinking, you need a certain kind of belief, you need a certain relationship with yourself in order to be the person you want to be and achieve what you want to be. And if you're trying to be that person and achieve it without internalizing it, you're just like going in circles. It doesn't happen. Yes. Okay. Someone doesn't listen to you, what do you get upset?
Someone doesn't listen to me, I get
Angry.
angry. This is a pattern is built in my conscious mind.
Yes.
So how can I build a better pattern, a good pattern in my mind against those negative patterns?
I can tell you a story. We have some devotees here from Mauritius. So one time I was in Mauritius, and I told the devotee to get 4D batteries, you know, the big ones. And he came back with 40 AAA batteries, right? And misunderstandings like that were like happening all the time, like every day. And the devotees there are very nice, they're very sweet, simple, sweet, nice. And I was getting really frustrated, like, because this was like happening all the time. Like, I don't want to tell you how bad it was, but I'm going to tell you, because so you can sympathize with me. I told the devotee to trim the hedges. He trimmed the Tulsi garden. Like that. It was like that bad, you know. I can tell you 10, 20 other unbelievable things. I mean, this was very early on in the movement there. And so I was getting, like exactly what you were saying, I was getting very angry and very upset. And it's, you know, as you know, it's really painful to be angry, isn't it? So one day I thought, you know, at the rate I'm going, I'm just going to always be agitated, because this is, you know, this is how they are. I'm American from a big country. This is a small country. They don't do things the way I do it. If you go to another country and say, cook this, you're thinking they're going to cook it like people in your country cook it, but they won't. They'll cook it like people in their country. And you go, what is this? They go, it's pizza. And you go, this is not pizza. This is a chapati with tomatoes on it. Yeah, it's pizza, Prabhu. So it's like, you know, so I had to learn that lesson the hard way. And I realized that I'm in this situation which is really disturbing. And if I continue the way I'm going, I'm going to be disturbed all the time, every day. And so I had this thought, and I thought, I don't want to live like this, and these devotees don't deserve my anger, because ultimately they're not doing anything wrong. It's just, they don't think like Americans. Obviously, because they're not. And I made a decision on the spot. I said, that's it. I'm just going to accept things as they are. And that was the last day I ever got upset with them. So, you know, it was an act of self-care. Because every time you get angry, you suffer. And if you really, I mean, you know, there may be other methods to deal with anger, but I want to put it in a self-care context, because I think it's one of the most powerful ways to deal with it. You say, if you care for yourself, will you control your anger? Yes, you will. Maybe you can't control it perfectly. Maybe it was easier for me, you know, but maybe you're very pitta, that you need a little more, you know, help in controlling. But the self-care can do wonders on that. Because anger comes from the way you see things. And if you change the way you see things, then could you change the way you see things so that now there's nothing to be angry about? Is that possible?
So, Maharaj, if I summarize, you're saying accepting the reality, accepting the situation is a positive affirmation that you put to solve this problem.
Yeah. But motivated by self-care, by accepting the situation, or generally, yeah. Or like, for example, in my case, I could just switch the way I see the devotees from foolish, they don't, know how to do things, to that's just how it is here. I don't know how to do things the way they want them done, the way they like them done. And they're nice devotees, and this is just how they do it. It's a kind of acceptance, but maybe a little more detailed. And then now there's nothing to get angry about. So if ever you're angry about something, I would just ask, could you see it in a different way so it doesn't make you angry anymore? Like, could you stop judging it, or, I mean, it's like, one of the reasons we get upset with ourselves is because we're judging ourselves. We have some standard, right? And then we're judging another person, we get upset with them. Well, what if we stop judging? It's just, okay, this is how the job went done. It's not good, bad, it's just how they did it. Like, it needs to be better. Who can I get to do it better? It's like all these judgments, that's all duality. You really get caught up in that. It's not good enough, I'm bad, he's bad.
So my other question is, sometimes if you're in the service of management or teaching service, you're not judging, but you have to evaluate the situation.
Yeah.
Evaluation is good, but judging is bad.
Yeah.
How we can understand that difference?
Because you're not judging the person, you're judging the performance. So it's like, okay, his performance is not as good. And it has nothing to do with his character or his qualities or like that. It's just, it's my fault. I put the wrong person in this position. I should be angry with myself. Something like that. In management, sometimes we put the wrong person in charge and then we're always getting angry at the person when it was our mistake because he's not qualified to do it. You know how that is. And he might be really qualified to cook, but he's not qualified to do puja. And so whose fault was it that I put him on the altar? And he can't, he doesn't, his fingers don't work to like put pins and crowns and stuff. That's me. What my eyes tell me to do, my fingers don't do. So, but they can play the key, they can play the harmonium. So, I think sometimes we need to take responsibility. So yeah, you evaluate, okay, he's not the best person, but why get mad at him? Do you ever get mad at someone for being who they are? That's so frustrating, isn't it? Yeah. So we're, I believe a self-caring person, that's how they would think. They would analyze things in a way so everything doesn't backfire on them. Because it's kind of like you set yourself up to be angry. We can do that anyway, right? Or like, I've noticed another thing in temples. Sometimes we have objectives in temples to do things, but we don't have enough men or money to do them. But we're pushing to do it with less resources, so everybody's stressed. You're stressed, everybody's stressed. And it was just a decision to do something that was a little bit beyond our resources. So everybody's got to make some sacrifice, work a few hours longer every day, and then gradually we're all getting burned out. And how did that all happen? It was just our decision. Could have, taken longer to achieve it or achieve less, and everyone it would have been okay. So, it's also like, well, should I accept a service where I'm just going to burn out? I hope not. Service is needed, but maybe it's a two-man job. Who knows? Or maybe somebody else can do it better. These are all the questions a self-caring person asks because they have boundaries. Does that make sense? Yes.
I might have misunderstood or missed some word. So before that you were saying that mind is asking for something that we have to ignore our mind, right?
Say that again. I said...
Our mind is asking for something, or some temptations are there, we have to let our mind, we have to ignore our mind if it doesn't listen to us. My point is like, there are so many emotions, and if we keep on ignoring those emotions, we stay in unresolved state, and they will, at some point of time, they will come on the surface, right? So should we better to deal with those unresolved emotions, or should we just keep on ignoring them?
No, you can deal with them in a healthy way. Because let's say I'm desiring something and it's not good for me. So I look at it and what are you feeling? What's going on? Why am I feeling this? What need am I trying to fulfill? Why am I desiring this? It's not even good for me. So because by feeling the emotion you get some intelligence. Like the emotion gives the intelligence the ability to analyze it and deal with it. And so if you suppress it, like let's say you're a criminal and you're doing all kinds of criminal behaviors, and you suppress your guilt, you'll never stop. But if you allow yourself to feel guilty, what's the guilt saying? Is that you're doing the wrong thing and you should find an honest way to make money. So it's not going to be bad to feel the guilt, because the guilt's going to direct you in a better direction. So, but if you wallow in negative emotions and they bring you down, then you're not dealing with them properly, because it's working against you. You're not... there's a difference between feeling an emotion and acting on it. You know, if you feel lust, it doesn't mean you have to act on it. You can allow yourself to feel lust without being lusty. And that's weird, right? Yeah, it's the same thing. But let's give an example. You're feeling lust. All right? So then you're asking the question, should I feel it, process it, or should I suppress it? And you can feel the lust without being lusty. You feel the feeling of what lust feels like as an emotion, not as a physical feeling, but as an emotion. So if you have a physical feeling of lust, there's also an emotion. You are feeling something. And if you're a devotee, definitely you're feeling very out of place, because this is not a feeling that devotees have. We respect Mataji, right? That's the feeling we're supposed to have. So I don't feel Mataji right now, right? Allow yourself to feel what you're feeling and let that guide your intelligence, because you'll feel pretty much like an animal. I mean, lust is an animal feeling, right? And so right now, if you allow yourself to feel the lust, you're saying, I'm looking at this woman as an object of my gratification. It's no different than a dog looking at another dog. And that feeling could disgust you and detach you. Whereas if you suppress that feeling and deny it, it could come out in a gross way. It's interesting, isn't it? So, I think the problem we make is that we think the emotion is the feeling, but the emotion is the lust. But I'm saying feel what the lust feels like, because that's where you'll get guidance. Or whatever the emotion is. What does it feel like? How does it feel like? It feels horrible. I don't want to feel like that. Well, how do I want to feel? I want to feel respect. I want to be in this mood of respecting and serving. That's the emotion I want, not this other one. Well, emotion, Vedically speaking, is subtle. It's the thought, it's feeling the thought. Because you don't always feel what you think.
But there is a intelligence is interpreting all this in between, right? Whether we should feel.
Not always.
It's really pretty saying, oh, I don't want it.
If you allow yourself to process the emotions, the intelligence will then kick in. But if you don't, it won't necessarily kick in. You'll just be overcome by the lust. You know, lust, I want this. Stop, tell me how you feel. Not how does the lust feel, but how do you feel lusting? Like if you're a brahmachari, how do you feel lusting? You're completely out of place. You're out of sync. I feel like a hypocrite. I'm out of alignment with my values, etc., etc. Well, do you want to feel that way? No. Are you willing to let this lust go because that's what it's doing to you? Yeah, that makes sense. I'm being a hypocrite. It's not a good feeling. Whereas if you don't allow yourself to feel how you feel, then you're just dealing with the lust. And that doesn't help you. Every time you allow yourself to feel how you feel, you'll get some guidance like this. Like, how do I deal with this? So the problem that I see is when we equate feeling with like desire. Like, don't feel, because if you feel, dayato vishayam punsam, but that's not what the feeling necessarily is. You can feel the attachment without being attached. I mean, you can separate, well, this is how I feel when I'm attached. Not good, I don't like it. So you have to, just think about it and see, and try to apply it and see. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
This is my third self-care.
Gets better every time, right?
Yeah, one I had online and two I had physical, live. So what I feel that what I gained from it or what changes it brought in and where I wanted to share.
Please.
First of all, it changed my perspective toward devotional service.
Hmm.
For a very long time, I was carrying some perspective that this is what I have to do, these are things I have to do. I think that changed drastically. Second point is,
What did it change to?
yeah, the biggest change which came in it was that my devotional service was not, I was not feeling that happiness in my devotional service.
Hmm.
And after these seminars, this happiness has come in my devotional service.
Oh, good.
That is the first thing which I have felt.
Why are you happy now? What changed?
That I'm coming to.
What?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
And now I practice my devotional service. I'm happy because I'm practicing on a more realistic level now. This realistic level was missing. I didn't knew that we could practice devotional service in a realistic way also. So now I'm practicing in a realistic way as you have taught me. So this has brought a lot of happiness in my devotional
Oh.
service. I'm always happy when I'm doing something. Another point is that there was an element of guilt at times.
Yes.
So I'm still trying to overcoming my shortcoming. Previously my shortcomings were there, and now also there. It are there. They are there. I'm trying to overcome my shortcoming, but that guilt element has gone. Previously I was trying to overcome my shortcoming, and I was carrying the guilt behind me.
So how does that affect you now compared to how it had affected you in terms of your enthusiasm and
Yeah, that guilt always brought depression
uh-huh.
in my mind.
Yeah.
I was feeling very depressed.
Yeah.
Every time I was doing something wrong,
Yeah.
there was a shortcoming. So I used to feel depressed that this is something which I will never overcome.
Hmm.
Then I realized after this, you don't have to think about the goal or overcoming it is not your main goal. But your effort to overcome it, that is
Yeah,
important.
yeah. Oh yeah. That's so important.
So that effort thing which I never knew, that effort is so important.
Yeah,
What is the effort was missing earlier?
yeah.
So now I learned from the self-care seminar that your effort for that removing of your shortcoming is as good as the removal of shortcoming.
The problem with being goal-based, I mean, we all have goals, obviously, but the problem with being goal-based, the problem can be is that you can't control the results. So if your happiness is based on the result, and you try your best but you don't get the result, you won't be happy, even though you tried your best. And if you try your best, you should be happy, because you can't always control the result. I mean, you keep trying, you want to get the result, of course. But to be able to continue going on, you have to, feel that, well, I'm trying. And if I keep trying, I know eventually it's going to get better, right? Where if it's too result-oriented, you could get very discouraged when you don't get the result, right? Yeah, what's the use? I'm not good at it. There's I think an obvious reality that people don't think, but anyone who is very successful has been doing what they're doing for 10, 20, 30 years before they became that successful. And, we don't know that. We just thought, well, he's just smart, and yeah. But you see somebody on YouTube is successful, he's been out in the world doing stuff, and you never even heard of him, right? He's just, some little guy in his office counseling a few people, and finally after 30 years he figures out, how he can help people in a bigger way, and he becomes successful. Now you hear about him. And he's on YouTube, and he's got an internet, so it's like he's bigger than life. He's got his podcast, it's just his, an extra room in his house, but now he's bigger than life. But, that took 30 years. There's one of the interesting things I heard, this helped me so much. This is just a statistical reality that when people start a business, they don't know it takes about 3 years before it's gonna, before you really can expect much. And so most people give up before. And there's some other statistic which is really important to know. The point at which most people give up is right at the point where they're getting very close to succeeding. But it's taken so long, they're just so tired and burned out, they give up. And there's a story, this disciple asked the Guru, where's the truth? And the Guru says, just go down this road. And then the Guru hears a big, he falls over. There's some trap or something he falls in. He comes back and he said, I didn't find it. He said, no, it's down the road. It goes again, he falls over. And now he's really angry, He says, Gurudev, you told me to go, I went, I didn't see the goal. He said, no, it's just that point where you fell over in that ditch, it's just past that. So a lot of times it's like that, like I keep failing, well, just past the failure, just keep going. And I think it's good to know that. But I think it's really important for us to just look at, what's my attitude? Is this attitude really going to help me succeed? Because sometimes we have this very pessimistic attitude, well, I failed, what's the use, etc. How are you going to succeed like that? And so if you actually care about yourself, wouldn't you want to put yourself in a better state? Okay, it's the best I could do now, but, it was my first try, it was my first business, okay, didn't go so great. I don't know if you know this, but the average millionaire pretty much has gone bankrupt at least once before they made $1 million. That's just normal. So if you don't know that, you go bankrupt and you just go get a job in a bank or something. You'll stop trying to do business, or, try some preaching program, it didn't work. All right, try another one. Look at Prabhupada. Nothing worked in India. And nothing was working in America either that well for a while, right? Do you know, I don't know if you know this, do you know there's a certain point in the beginning of ISKCON, I would say maybe in 1970, 71, 72, where ISKCON became big. And did you know that Prabhupada was surprised it became that big? Did you know that? It became so big, it was just 108 temples in basically 10 years. So that, and thousands of people, and it's just we're doing crazy preaching everywhere. Prabhupada never even knew it was going to be that big. So sometimes it's like that. Have you heard this example before? You get the way they cut stone. They get a chisel and they tick, 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 knock, 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 knock. I was told 100 times. 101 you hit it and it cracks. And obviously it cracks because you hit it 100 times first. So 100 times, nothing, and then you crack. Just, so sometimes it's like that. But there's I think another principle that's really important. Let's say I fail. I go out in Harinam and it's people just walk by you and ignore you. You try to distribute books, hardly anybody takes. I think it's important for us to relish the activity. This is service to Krishna, success or failure. I got to do service. We got to go on Harinam. So enjoy the ride, as they say. And how can you enjoy the ride when you're I'm so bad, this is no good, I can't do anything right. Some of us just have talents that others don't. Maybe you'll never do anything amazing, and another devotee will do amazing things every day. How does that make you feel? Not so good, right? But it's just, this is what I do. And, it's devotional service, so why can't I be happy, doing less, if that's the best I can do? Not everybody's great at doing everything, right? I mean, some of us are just good at some things and not good at other things, right? Too bad. That's, it's just the way it is. Don't lament. It's okay. Thank you for sharing that. You want to do one more exercise? Yes, no, maybe? Yeah. A lot of you have done this exercise, and I don't think it's a problem to do it again because you never know what will come up. The exercise is simply this. I think you know what it is. I love myself too much to, and you put in the blank. I love myself too much to. Allow myself to, what is it? I love myself too much to allow myself to. Eat 26 gulab jamans every day. Yeah. I love myself too much to chant bogus rounds every day. I love myself too much to whatever. So this way you can to try to connect with this self-love and see how that self-love could change something specifically. Whatever, like you can, if you know what's a really good one to do in this exercise, just think of some of your weaknesses. And just say, I love myself too much to do what? That thing you would give into, that weakness. It's just a good exercise to identify that. And when you write it, try to feel it. Because that's where the power is going to come from, feeling it. So you feel that. When you say, I love myself, feel it. Too much to do this. And just kind of feel, I could never do that, because that would hurt me. Can we do that? You can get 1, you can get 20. I'm going to send you 35. I've recorded 35. I love myself. All from our students. You want me to read you a few? Get the ball rolling? Okay. Ah! Okay, here it is. I'll give you a few. I'll just give you a lot because I think it's good for you. I love myself too much to neglect my needs. I love myself too much to stagnate. I love myself too much to leave the association of devotees. I love myself too much to blame myself for my imperfections. I love myself too much to allow myself to cultivate lusty desires. I love myself too much to focus on devotees' flaws and insult them for these flaws. I love myself too much to eat food not offered to Krishna or not allowed for a devotee. I love myself too much to eat late. I love myself too much to ignore the careful chanting of the holy names. To go to bed late. To not preach. To allow myself to be affected by the judgments of others. So you kind of get the idea? So, write down a few. And try to enter into the feelings. What happened?
He's talking to Dinanath Prabhu and he was saying we should increase the wholesale price.
The what?
The wholesale price for the Japa books to 60. It's 50 now. For the Westerners, it's still fine. And I'm concerned about the India. Do you think Rasbihari will be okay? Because they were already bargaining about the 50.
Yeah.
So, because
Try 60 and see what happens. Who sold it to them last time?
Aditi Mataji had sent to them and Vijay Radhika had talked to
Just
them.
tell them the printing costs went up. See what happens. You always have to start high.
Yeah, I mean 50, even for 50 they were like, oh it's too much, and but because it's already less, so they were fine. So that's why I'm concerned when we increase it.
Yeah, that's a problem. Doesn't hurt to try and see what they say.
What if they don't agree?
And we'll get back to them. We can always get back to them. I mean, it's nice that they have it. We're not making much money.
I mean, in India, that's the only place that where we sent, other than like, the Pune temples and everybody, they're taking like 10 copies or something.
That's crazy. What about here?
No, the temples just don't take it.
Oh,
Neither in Mayapur nor here.
that's
Here
why. Well, they just take a few or nothing?
Last time they said that they're getting it from a different, this golden whatever company that prints it. So I just gave them 10 and they're like, no need, we'll take it from there.
Well, that company doesn't print them anymore. That was like 6 years ago.
Yeah, Golden Age something. And they said that we get all our books from there.
Well, call up Golden Agents, see who they are.
Amen, Prabhu knows that.
Okay.
But their printing is not good.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about it later then. We have to end. Okay, everyone. We've come to the end. But this is just the beginning. Everything that we've learned is just now meant to be digested, thought about, practiced. Like many of you this is your third time. And you could probably take it 10 more times. Still, it's just the nature of this. I don't know how to say it, but it just takes time to stop hating yourself and loving yourself, It takes practice and, Because we can't figure out why we would desire anything that's not good for us. It doesn't make sense, right? It's like, it's a whole conditioning. And it can play into our religious upbringing, the way our parents trained us. There's so many things. So it's a slow process, but as you apply it, you learn. It's a way of being, it's a way of thinking. And take care of yourself better, you take care of others better. Love yourself, you'll love others. That's just how it works. So thank you all for coming. I hope this helps you. And those of you who are coming for the retreat in Govardhan, this was just appetizer. Just the icing on the... No, not the icing on the cake. This is appetizer for... I told in... I'll give you a preview of one of the exercises you get to do there. This is going to be so much fun. You're going to go into therapy with Krishna. And you're actually going to play Krishna. And your partner is going to be you, and you're going to imagine what Krishna was going to say about you. Like, what he wants from the relationship that he's not getting. Exercises like that. It's going to be really interesting. We're going to try to take things very deep. So, if you haven't registered, I think you could come, but I don't think there's any rooms to stay there. But if you're interested in coming, just let somebody, one of our team members here know. And I think the only way you could come is if you just stayed somewhere else and came. And I don't think making prasadam's a problem. And there's plenty of room in the hall. There's just not enough beds. Unless you like sleeping on the floor or outside or something. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to all the devotees. All glories to Radhe Shyam Krishna Balaram Gaur Nitai. Go